To make a series about chess, a 7-hour series about chess, or give or take a couple of minutes, you've got to be very, very good. And Queen's Gambit is very, very good. Why? I'll tell you now. So Queen's Gambit is based on the 1983 novel by US author Walter Tevis, and it's been woven beautifully together by a very good writer and director, Scott Frank and Alan Scott. Scott Frank was also responsible for Godless, which was a phenomenal and very underappreciated show. It's on also 83% or 85%. Brilliantly written and directed, as is Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit, I think, works so well because of the lead actress too. We're looking at Anya Taylor-Joy, who is absolutely Anya Taylor-Joy, who's absolutely brilliant in this. She is phenomenal. Not only is she absolutely stunning in a very classic beauty sort of way, she really can be intense. She's got this sort of magnetic appeal that when she's on the screen, you can't stop looking. And it's not in a pervy sort of sexual way. It's in a what's going on behind the eyes way. And she really does bring this in the show because, the character is set in the 1950s and 1960s where women are basically repressed, okay? The show does show that, the series does show that. It doesn't go too heavy into it, which I think is quite nice and a little bit different, actually, because it could, repel people. But it is certainly there. So what's the story, just before I get into this sort of the characters' depths and complexity? Well, basically, Beth ends up in an orphanage when she's 5 or 6 years old because her mother has a car crash, dies, and she happens on a janitor playing a game of chess. He does the usual, chess is for, not for girls. She goes away and comes back and carries on playing, becomes brilliant, and yeah, that's basically the story. I don't want to give too much of it because a lot of this is story-driven. I mean, the greatness of it is story-driven. But I will talk about the character and her themes here. She is a character who has massive issues because of her situation, being brought up in an orphanage, when she's literally fed tranquilizers by authorities. The authorities over here, I suppose, being the big man, hence the woman subjugation angle I mentioned just now. So she's quite literally doped up to her eyeballs as a young girl and becomes dependent on these tranquilizers. Later on in life, she becomes dependent on alcohol and, I think some drugs as well are thrown in there. And that kind of powers her. It removes her from reality so she can focus on the game of chess. Earlier in the show, very earlier in the show, when she's still in the orphanage, she's given a hint that don't take the drugs in the morning because it'll whack you out and spaz you. Take them at night. It'll help you sleep and it'll help you focus. Well, not focus, but help you dream. And Beth basically dreams on her ceiling. She watches the game of chess on her ceiling. She plays out these scenarios in her mind while completely whacked. And this basically plays throughout the entire series. There is one wonderful moment where she's able to get that clarity without being completely stoned out of her head. And that's a really lovely scene to get to. One that I think a lot of people out here will probably shed a tear or at least well up a little bit going, "You did it, girl!" And that's what this show is about. It really is a celebration of women and a celebration of this character in particular because she's been repressed. The only way she can really beat the guy is by playing chess and beating him through that. I'm also very happy that they didn't focus too much on the whole I'm a girl beating a guy. She does dress nicely. The costumes in this are amazing. The costume design is phenomenal throughout the show. Some reporter says to her, "Don't you get distracted by the clothes and whatnot?" And I think her reply is something about, "Well, don't guys get distracted by Adam's apples?" That's sort of put into bed that, we've talked about the guy-girl dynamic now. Leave it the hell alone. So, yeah, it's definitely a brilliantly watchable show because of Anya. She's phenomenal in this. There are some other actors in this too who are really, really great. We've got it's Harry Melling. He played the Dursley, the naughty boy in Harry Potter. He then appeared in Old Guard with Charlize Theron as the bad guy, and he was laughably bad in this. He was so terrible in that movie that I kind of cast him aside and thought this guy's not going to get another job. But he's really great in this. He's sweet, and he is needed because he is the sort of sweetness to her rather aloof and very distant character. I kind of feel sorry for his character. He kind of gets dicked over a little bit by her. We also then have Thomas Brodie Sangster, who was in Godless too. He's a really great actor. Really like him. He's a very tall dude. He was in Love Actually. Is that right? Love Actually? Yeah, he was really great in this. And basically she plays against these people at the beginning and she beats them, or of course she beats them, and they become her friends. And that's the nice thing about this, is not too many of the games end in them hating her. Not to say it doesn't happen. There are a couple of people who get pissed off that they lose to her, but they don't focus on this. And as I mentioned, they don't focus on that dynamic of a girl beating them. She is young in this. I mean, we open, as I mentioned, in an orphanage when she's 5 up to 7 years old, and then the majority of it takes place between she's like late teens, early 20s, and she's still going through life, trying to figure out what happened in life. She gets adopted from the orphanage and ends up living in a family where the mother is not loved by the husband. The husband treats the mother like an item, an object, much like they did in the 1950s and 60s. The propaganda around woman being the great wife or the good wife was such that they certainly showed in this, the perfect household, etc., etc. The mother's also only escape is kind of playing the piano. It's the only way she can really be herself. And she too has a dependency on alcohol and drugs, and that is not going to help a daughter living in that environment. So she is basically fueled by the mother, and as opposed to being helped by her. So yeah, the show is absolutely binge-worthy. It is phenomenal. It's sitting on 100% right now on Rotten Tomato. I think that's justified. The actors in this are really great. I'm trying to think of some negatives right now, and I think the only negative that I can really pick up on is maybe how the character, even though when she's being a bit of an asshole to other people, they still fall around her and they kind of love her. Even when she's literally told, get out of my life, don't call me, they still clamor to her. And maybe it's because of the magnetism of the character, because I can tell you the actress certainly does have it. And yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest negative. And like I say, I can't really think of many other negatives. This is a complete sleeper hit. And I think Netflix keep doing it. I mean, this is, like I say, we had Teenage Bounty Hunters a couple of months ago, which is a really strong female-led show. We have this show, again, strong female-led show, without ramming into your face, females' rights or whatever, women's rights. And that's why I think this works so well. Yeah, I think it's something I could watch again, definitely. So yeah, enjoy it and let me know what you think. Catch you guys later.